Hi, it's Miss Lisa from the St. Paris Public Library. Welcome back to Doggy Bag Cooking Class. I hope that you had the chance to go by the library and pick up your supply bag because you had a lot of random things in there. This week we are going to be doing sliced baked potatoes, and we're going to be using our leftover item, which is leftover baked potatoes. Now these potatoes were baked in my crock pot, and I have a little video that I'm going to slip in here and show you how I did that. Okay, so you wash your potatoes and you poke holes in it. I use a knife and cut a hole in the center of my potato all the way through. I don't slice it, I just poke a hole in it. Then I rub my potatoes with olive oil and sprinkle a little bit of kosher salt, which is a coarser salt. Then I wrap each potato in aluminum foil. I put it in my larger crock pot so that it's a single layer, and I cook it on high for about 5 hours. I set the timer for 5 hours. At the end of 5 hours, then I check and make sure that they're soft to the touch, and then I can take them out. That was the first time I've ever made baked potatoes in my crock pot, and they worked out really well. And it did take 5 hours, but it was awesome. Now these potatoes have been refrigerated overnight in my refrigerator because they were left over from the potatoes that we ate for supper. So we're going to be using 2 of these leftover baked potatoes with the skins on. We are going to leave the skins on them because that is what's going to hold your potato together when you get ready to put it in the microwave. Or I mean in the oven. That means my oven's preheated. So you are going to need some olive oil, some kosher salt, which is a little bit coarser. It's a bigger flake of salt, some cheddar cheese, and some bacon bits. Now, on the recipe, you can add other things to the tops of your potatoes before you put them in the oven if you want to, but these are the items that I'm putting in your bag for you to be able to use. So I'm going to move some of this aside. And I'm also going to talk a little bit, I put some information in your bag about resistant starch. I am a diabetic, so I have to watch how many carbohydrates and starchy foods I eat, and I love potatoes and rice. So it's really hard for me to do without potatoes and rice. So one of the things that I have come across is something called resistant starch, and it's a carbohydrate that resists digestion in the small intestine, and it ferments in the large intestine. And as it ferments, it creates prebiotics and it feeds the good bacteria in your gut. And it is there's several different kinds of resistant starch. They have different classifications and things like that. So if you're interested in it, I put the website in the on the paperwork that is in your supply bag. If you would like the information and you didn't get a supply bag, if you message me, I'll send you the information. Basically what it is that when you cook rice and potatoes and you let them get cold and then you reheat them, there are less carbohydrates in them when you eat them reheated. So a lot of times I make baked potatoes in advance and then reheat them. They're not as delicious and fluffy as the fresh baked potatoes are, but they do have less carbohydrates in them, so I can eat them a little bit less guiltily, if I can put it that way. Okay, so we're going to start by slicing our potatoes, and I'm going to cut the ends off because I don't want that end on there like that. So we're going to cut our potatoes, and the slices of the potatoes are about 1/2 inch thick. So I have a ruler that I'm going to show you how thick 1/2 inch is. Now, I'm not measuring it to be extremely particular. I just want you to realize how big it is. So, 1/2 inch is about this thick. I'm going to poke a little hole right there. So, this is about 1/2 inch thick. So, it's thicker than you think it is. All right? So, we're going to make them about 1/2 inch thick. And we're going to slice them like this. We're making them a little bit thick because that way the potatoes will hold together. Because if you notice, if the skin is broken where I cut the potato, it'll come apart. We don't want that. We want the skin to hold it together. So I'm going to take the ends off because I don't want those on there. So I'm going to slice up both of the potatoes. Okay, I have both potatoes sliced, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil and I'm going to put it in my pan. But I'm not going to rub it all over my pan. I'm just going to put a little thing of olive oil right there in the corner of my pan. You see it right there? Okay, then I'm going to take my potato and just kind of swish it around in there on both sides and set it over here. I don't need to grease my pan if I'm going to do this with my potatoes. The reason I'm using olive oil is because olive oil heats up and it will get crispier with the olive oil because the olive oil gets hotter than regular like canola oil, which I use a lot too. Peanut oil also does the same thing, but peanut oil tends to smoke a little bit. And the last thing we want to do is make smoke in the kitchen. People will think we're making bread or something because I usually burn it. So we don't want to do that. So get a nice coating of the olive oil on both sides of your potato. All right. This one's going to get slim pickings. Here we go. Let's see if I can get enough on that side. There we go. All right. I'm going to slide them down here onto this side where I have the olive oil. All right. So I have my potatoes on there. Let me set this aside a minute. Over here. There we go. So there are my potatoes. So now I'm going to put a little bit of my kosher salt. Kosher salt is just a coarser salt than regular shaker salt. If you shake it out, you'll see that it's flaky. You don't want a whole lot, just sprinkle some on there. It looks like you're putting a lot on there, but you're really not. It's just it's bigger and you can see it. If you were using a salt shaker, you would be putting a whole lot more than that on there. There we go. Just a little bit of salt. Okay, so now I'm going to put some cheese on there. Well, actually, I think I'm going to put the bacon bits on first. We eat bacon bits because I don't cook bacon here because my husband doesn't eat bacon. So I'm not going to put bacon bits on all of them. I'm just going to put bacon bits on part of them because some are mine and some are his. So on mine, I'm putting bacon bits. And if I had some leftover broccoli or asparagus maybe, I might put some of that on there. But I don't have anything like that. Actually, I have some asparagus in my refrigerator. There we go. Okay, so I put bacon bits on my half. Now I'm going to put cheese on there. And I'm going to pick it up off the tray because there's no point in wasting the cheese on the tray. You want to use all of it. Now I will use real cheese. You can use any kind of cheese you want on them. You can put mozzarella cheese, you could, which is pizza cheese, or you can put feta cheese on them. That sounds good. I like feta cheese. So you can put any kind of cheese on there, but I supplied you with some cheddar cheese. It's almost like making a twice baked potato all by itself. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to do my husband's potatoes. He uses fat-free cheese. So he's going to get fat-free cheese on his half of the potatoes. And in case you can hear it in the background, he's actually out mowing today. I'm going to pick up the cheese off the tray, like I said, because we don't want to waste it. That's just going to sit there and melt. And all that good, delicious cheese on there. Okay, we are going to pop these in the oven, 425 degrees for at least 10 minutes, and then we're going to check them after 10 minutes and see how they're progressing. We want the cheese to be melted really good and crispy and bubbly and deliciously looking. That way we know that the potatoes are heated through. Okay, so we're going to put them in the oven for about 10 minutes. Okay, our potatoes have baked in the oven for about 10 minutes. I left them in a little bit longer, so probably about 13 minutes. And as you can see, my cheese is better than his cheese. His cheese is fat-free, so his cheese never gets really brown, but it does melt pretty good, and it tastes good to him too. My cheese, I like my cheese nice and crispy and brown. And if you turn over the bottoms are toasty, and you can take these and we're going to plate them up. Okay, so I have my potatoes on my plate. I put some diced tomatoes on there, and I'm actually going to put some ranch dressing on mine. You can put sour cream or whatever you want, but with the bacon and the cheese and the tomatoes, it makes them like a BLT. So I'm going to put some ranch on mine. Boy, that was very decorative, wasn't it? Okay. So the leftover baked potatoes, bacon and cheese, the olive oil, a little bit of salt. I put diced tomatoes on top, and then I put some ranch on there. And then cooked them in the oven. Baked them in the oven. You could probably put them in the microwave if you wanted to not use your oven in the summer, but the oven tends to make them taste better. The potato is nice and warm, and the cheese is good. I think that might be one of my favorites so far. So I hope you enjoy your sliced baked potatoes, rebaked potatoes I should say, your sliced rebaked baked potatoes. We'll see you next week.